financial problems, elder law, tax problems, business matters, divorce, personal injury, bankruptcy, your life, your reality. Life is complicated. There is the law and there is reality. Welcome to Law and Reality, sponsored by Thav Gross. Now here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome to Law and Reality. All right, this segment, well, first of all, I've got with me for this segment, Jenny Lingle is in the studio.
Ken.
Hi, Jenny. Brian Small, good morning. David Einstanding.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. All right, this segment, the topic is going to be, we have plenty to worry about. And I thought there was an interesting article I found in
Another uplifting topic.
Huffington Post on November 21st, which was the top 8 financial worries of Americans. And it kind of lays them out there. And it said financial worries, so it didn't expand beyond to the other things that we worry about. So I thought we'd kind of go through them, and then I want to take this and kind of introduce and profile Senator Elizabeth Warren, because she's a strong consumer advocate, and I think it ties into a lot of financial issues that are hot topics in today's market. But number one, the thing Americans most worry about financially is affording retirement. That has come as a surprise to you, any of you?
No, it doesn't come as a surprise. I think people are worrying more and more as we see that Social Security is drying up and the economy is just blasted retirement.
66% of the population's worried about that. 30% is not.
I think some people know retirement's not going to happen. So I think there's an...
They're not worried about it because they're just going to keep working.
They're just going to keep working.
Or they're going to die young.
Well, one of the two.
Is that what explains the 30%?
I thought only the good die young.
Do you worry about affording retirement, David?
Do I worry about it?
Yes. Or do you think you got it covered?
I don't think it would be fair to say that I think I have it covered. There's a concern, and obviously it depends on your state, on your health.
So are you in the 30% that are not worried about it at all? Or not too worried about it?
I think it's a concern. It's a concern every time you make a decision.
Jenny, which side are you on?
You ask a question and then I answer.
You answer.
You just keep
yeah,
going.
I got your answer.
Well, you know what? You're the one closest to retirement, and then in the room.
I'm going to answer the question for myself after I go through you guys. Jenny, are you worried or not?
Well, my husband and I have discussed it, and we don't think retirement's really a possibility. I almost feel like you're always going to work, maybe not full time, but
in the service industry, I think, in any industry, depending on obviously what it is.
I'm just trying to pull the four of us and move on to the next one, but if you want to stay on this for a while,
well,
we can.
Because you're not talking about
Just
the
because
worry. You didn't ask the right question. You didn't ask the right question.
Oh, excuse me. What question should I have asked? How
Are you
could I be
worried-
so
are you
foolish to have
worried
not
that-
asked the right question?
Are you worried that Social Security is not going to be there, or are you worried that Social Security is not going to be enough?
That's not the. Neither.
That's the question.
No, it's not the right question.
Yeah, it is.
I know Social Security is not going to be enough. It can't possibly be enough.
Why?
Because it's never been enough. It's not enough now. It's not enough. It's only enough if you have other retirement funds to sub. Social Security can only, at best, supplement retirement. It can't possibly provide enough retirement. Your normal Social Security benefit is around $2,000, $2,200 per month. Okay, rent is $2,000 per month. So if you have other expenses such as your Medicare payment, your prescription payment, and if you choose to eat while you're in retirement, you don't have enough money from Social Security.
What percent of the population fall in that category, where Social Security is primarily 95% of their income?
I don't know what percentage, but way too big. But I still want to go back to the polling, if I could. Brian, do you worry about it or not worry about it?
I'm moderately worried about it.
I worry
as
about
it goes. I think that it's important to focus on retirement and put the money away. But you know what? Lots of things happen, and being my practice being mainly bankruptcy and financial crisis issues, I see what happens to people that have money or had money and it's gone, and how quickly it can go away. So
bubbles can burst.
Bubbles do burst. I mean, I had a client in my office that if you said to me what was their net worth 5 years ago or 6 years ago, it was over $16 million. What's it today? 0.
That's a big fall.
Do you think it's a good thing that people live longer?
I think it's if you're healthy, I think it's a good thing. I don't, from a standpoint of the economy and the burden on Medicare and on Social Security, it's a problem that we are going to have to deal with and face. I think in terms of what the goal is to live longer and healthier. I think that's a good thing. Living long and not being healthy is probably a bad thing, and that'll further bring down the system. I want to make another point. I worry about retirement a lot more now than I did when I was 30. The lesson to me is I wish I had worried about it when I was 30 and 35 and prioritized it from the standpoint of making sure I had adequate funds to retire with. Now that I'm 60, I worry about it a lot more because
But the hard
different.
thing is in your 30s, you're worried about how you're going to put your kids through college.
well,
Yeah,
even
well-
before that, you're worried about how you're going to pay for the nursery school bill, and then you're worried
camp.
about the camp, and
So
you're
what
worried
would
about
you have
the
done
dance
different, big
lessons
guy?
and everything else.
What would you have done different?
I would have saved more, and I would have. Everyone has the benefit of hindsight. If I could sit there with the benefit of hindsight, I could say, "Sorry, you're not going to have 84 costumes for all these dance lessons."
Do you know you would have an extra $250,000? I did the analysis. An extra $250,000.
And I would have never paid interest on credit cards.
in your retirement account if you did not get your hair colored every week.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
I'm just telling you. I did the analysis. I can show you this Excel spreadsheet.
Do you have the spreadsheet on it?
I can show you the spreadsheet.
Have you figured out how long I've been coloring my hair?
Long time. I've been with you 23 years.
I don't know if has it been that long?
Let's just say Sherman and Williams
I-
has done quite well.
I went premature. Greg.
yeah.
All right, let's go to number 2.
Oh, that was number 1?
All right. Affording medical emergencies is number 2, and the ratio there was 60%. Very worried. 38. Not worried at all.
That's an interesting one because these days with the requirement to have health insurance, your medical emergencies aren't
be
as
covered.
They should be. I mean, you're limited in your out of pocket. It's still a big number, 6,800, 7,000.
But that's a question I wanted to ask you, Brian. In the last 6 months or maybe a year, have you seen, as far as the clients or potential clients that come in that you're looking in their situation, do you see those astronomical medical bills still lingering around? Or maybe that was pre-Obamacare.
You know, the answer is yes
They
and
still
no.
linger.
They still exist, but the $7,000 deductible is still killing people.
And what if the Republican challenge to Obamacare is successful and it becomes and the law is voided? Then are you liable for all those medical bills? I'm being facetious a little bit. Number 3 is affordable, accustomed standard of living. Number 4 is affordable, normal health care costs, and we'll do the others after the break.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Tax problems are major problems. Don't let the IRS levy your wages and seize your assets. There is a solution.
Worth Ave Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
If you're behind on your taxes and owe money to the IRS, call Fav Gross.
We've been solving tax problems for 32 years. We stop wage levies, resolve unfiled returns, and obtain the best possible settlements.
Call Fav Gross today, 888-235-HELP.
All right, welcome back. We're going through the things Americans are most worried about financially, but before we do that, I want to give a couple announcements. We have a seminar coming out on December 17th. That's a Wednesday. It's called Figuring Out 2015. It's a planning seminar to figure out where you're going financially. The premise is take steps to preserve future income for you and your family. So if you go through the holiday season and there's more spending, and finally the plan in 2015 is I'm going to get rid of this credit card debt and things like that, this seminar is about identifying options and strategies to minimize debt and maximize savings.
Even if you wind up and your goal is to get rid of your credit card debt, if you finish 2015 and you've cut that principally in half, you've made exponential strides over the future.
No question about it. Every dollar you spend on interest is, go back to what your grandparents used to say to you, a penny saved is a penny earned. Every dollar you don't spend on interest is ultimately saved, because whatever you spend on interest is gone, and it's going to be that $1 less that you ultimately have in savings. So every dollar you can save and cut expense-wise can then translate into ultimate savings.
Now,
is a smart move.
Did you find it odd with your grandparents when you were younger, how they could never get anyone's name right? And then as you got older, you realized that you can't get anyone's name right half the time either when you're dealing with
I don't know why you
siblings.
say that, Rick. I don't
Right.
feel that way.
Right.
George, do you agree with me? And
I don't know. My 98-year-old grandfather still knows. He doesn't know my name, but he knows Jacob's.
That's pretty good. That
Yeah,
is pretty
yeah.
good.
I'll have to get back to you on that, Steve.
He's got one.
It was important.
If you want to sign up for the seminar, I remember the names for this. It's thavgross.com or lawandreality.com, or you can call 888-235-HELP. It's from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at our offices in Bingham Farms, Wednesday, December 17th. Free reports, Retiree's Guide to Social Security from Pat Samasco, who joins us frequently on the show to talk about elder law. That report is available at ssifreereport.com. Reg X report on relief from foreclosure. In fact, I just updated that report this week. That is also free. It is regxhomesaver.com. And if you go to the Law and Reality website, there's also the site there has the Financial Crisis Analyzer, which will analyze your finances in terms of laying out quickly options available to reduce debt. I want to thank our sponsors, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, Trips Auto Shop and Collision Center in Jackson and Lansing, U.S. Staffing in Jackson and Lansing, and Thav Gross. All right, now back to financial issues that Americans are most worried about, and then I want to talk about Elizabeth Warren. Number 5 was affording normal monthly bills. Think about this list as the direction it's going down. There you have 43% are very to moderately worried, 55% are not worried at all.
Now, hang on. Listen to that number. 43% of those polled are very to moderately worried about affording their
Just making their
daily
nut.
household bills.
It's tough.
That's a scary number.
It's tough out there.
That means that you've got people that are coming home after they get their paycheck going, I don't even know if I'm going to make it through the week.
Let's keep going. Number 6, affording children's college tuition. That's 41 very worried, 27% moderately or not worried. I'm surprised 6 is so far down the list. What it says to me is they're not prioritizing the need for their kids to go to college. Number 7, affording rent, mortgage, housing costs. That's 36% very to moderately worried, 58% not that worried. And number 8, affording the minimum credit card payments, 24% very to moderately worried, 60% not worried at all.
That
Take
doesn't.
that one. What
That
say
does
to you,
not
Brian?
mean that just because that they can't pay it or that they're worried about not paying it. That means that only 20. That's like as you go down the list of what's important to you, food and shelter is much more important than worrying about whether Visa or MasterCard are going to get paid.
Well, retirement apparently is more important.
Well, sure, because people are scared about their future.
Well,
Nobody's scared about whether or not Visa or MasterCard are going to still be in business next
wait
week.
a second. I tended to look at it too there because this is the last one on the list. But 24% of Americans are worried about whether they can just make the minimum payments.
and
That's a quarter of the population.
That's
insane.
It is a huge number from the standpoint of perspective. But if you look at what people are prioritizing, retirement is more important than credit cards.
Which is good. Absolutely.
Which is what we're preaching.
Wait,
Right.
that's what they say. It may not be what reality is and what they do.
That's
a factor of
I'm gonna
education
try
and knowing what your options are and knowing how to get yourself out of that credit card debt, so that you can put yourself in a position to save for
kind
retirement.
of need to look at those kind of almost in a graph way. It's kind of a bizarre type of a analysis as you go through the split between very worried for the sake of Milt and not worried at all. Now I want to talk about Elizabeth Warren. She's a senator. She's an expected candidate for president. And let me tell you, she's a fireball. On November 19th, there was a hearing where she accused the current FHFA director, that's Watt. FHFA is the housing finance industry or agency that governs Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So I want to set the scene for you. There was a federal housing finance agency hearing in the Senate Banking Committee on Wednesday, November 19th. Melvin Watt is the new head of the agency. He took over last year for who I considered to be the evil man of the financial crisis, Ed DeMarco. We talk about him all the time on the show, how he absolutely refused to recognize or give any allowance to principal reduction in loan modifications. Melvin Watt is a Obama appointee, and he's considered to be very pro-consumer. And Elizabeth Warren is also a Democrat. She replaced she took Ted Kennedy's seat in the first full election for Senate, and she's a very strong consumer advocate. And in the hearing, she kind of went after Watt in this hearing. First, he delivered his normal kind of run-of-the-mill speech in front of the group and made his statement. And then she got the microphone, and I want to kind of, after we come back from the break, read you a couple of the quotes and the dialogue that went back and forth between her and Mr. Watt. It's somewhat fascinating because here you got Democrat on Democrat. And it kind of mirrors what we've been talking about for many years on this show. We'll be back after the break.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Fab Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
All right, welcome back. All right, we're talking about Elizabeth Warren, and there's a Senate Finance Committee hearing, and she's speaking and has her opportunity as a senator to question and make points to Melvin Watt, who's Ed DeMarco's replacement at the head of the housing agency, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. She says 5 million families lost their homes during the financial crisis, and millions more are still struggling. According to the latest data from CoreLogic, another 5.3 homeowners remain underwater in their homes, and people are continuing to lose their homes every day in foreclosure. We talk a little bit about the law here. Now, one of your duties under the law, one of your duties is to conserve the assets of Fannie and Freddie, but another duty given equal importance by Congress is to implement a plan that seeks to maximize assistance for homeowners and take advantage of available programs to minimize foreclosures. This is what she comes in, and she's kind of attacking him, and she goes on to make the big statement that principal reduction in loan modifications was an important thing and still is, and that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac steadfastly refused to do that. She goes on, she says, the Treasury Department has found that principal reductions could save Fannie and Freddie nearly $4 billion and help 500,000 homeowners stay in their home. It has been 6 years since Congress created the FHFA, and in all that time, your agency has never, not once, permitted a family to reduce its principal mortgage through Fannie or Freddie. I've asked about this repeatedly, and you said you'd look into allowing Fannie and Freddie to engage in principal reduction. You said it again today. You've been in this office for nearly a year now, and you haven't helped a single family, not even one, by agreeing to principal reduction. So I want to know why this hasn't been a priority for you. The data are there. So she doesn't mince words. I loved reading this.
And you can translate. You're going
I
know you're going to go over
I'm not gonna keep reading
his answer, but his answer really translated to this. That was it. I mean, he didn't have an answer. He did the political two-step, and you know what?
Well, wait a minute. You have to ask the question.
We're still not going to see it.
I don't know if you know the answer, but
we might.
Why is those that have the ability to make the decision against principal reduction?
He mirror
Not
imaged
him.
in his response the same thing that you heard from DeMarco.
Which was
we
what?
have to do this in a way that is responsible. Otherwise, we just reduce principal for everybody across the board. That was DeMarco's constant statement as well.
Which means what?
I don't buy it at all. What they were worried about is if
strategic default.
Strategic default. That everybody would then want principal reduction. And the answer is it's absolutely been rejected, because if you look in the marketplace, the big five have reduced principal because they had to do it as part of their settlement obligations after being sued and fined billions of dollars for their fraudulent practices. And it's worked. And you can dole out principal reduction in a logical fashion. If
the bankruptcy process is available to every individual in the country, it doesn't mean that everyone is going to avail themselves of the process or even qualify.
Beyond that,
statement. I mean, and only
it's smarter to reduce
1.2 million are filing bankruptcy approximately a year right now. So
if you're underwater in the house, it's smarter to reduce the balance on the mortgage to market value, which brings the payment down to an affordable level, which incentivizes the homeowner to keep the house rather than disincentivize them. When they come into Brian and I and Jenny and you and they're $200,000 underwater in the house, we say we have to get rid of this toxic asset. If the decision was we could modify the mortgage and bring the mortgage down to the balance owed and they could afford to make that payment, the marketplace is better off. It saves the cost of the foreclosure.
Well, I actually think that there's a whole lot of truth in what you're saying, and I think that they've kind of secretly think they've already done that. With a lot of the HAMP modifications, you know how they defer principal until the end of the loan, until it's paid off, 40 years, until you have to pay it off at 40 years?
Yeah, but that isn't doing it.
I know, but it gives the appearance to the homeowner. It still gives them the lower payment based on a lower principal.
Correct. But then they have to answer
balance.
the question if they want to sell the home. They're stuck in that home unless we can discharge
That's
the
addressing
monetary
a cash
obligation.
flow symptom, not the problem. But how do you? For years, we've always heard this in the legal profession, and it's what we say to our clients quite often. How do you define a good settlement of a problem?
Mutual unhappiness sometimes, but
you got to give a little.
It doesn't always. You have to give a little on both
but
sides.
What's going on here is Warren is saying you refuse to give any.
Correct, and that's
the
exactly
problem.
what DeMarco did. And what she really said to him is, "You promised you would be better than DeMarco, and you've had a year and you've done nothing. And I'm not gonna sit here and let you continue doing it because no one's gotten any help."
What do we
I
got?
actually
just
love
kind of a little background on Warren.
Wait,
she was born in born in 49. Fourth child, 3 older brothers. Her father was a janitor. He had a heart attack, led to many medical bills. They lost their car from failure to make payments. She went to school at Rutgers Law School. She got an education degree, completely did it on her own. She's the American success story. She's an advocate for people that have faced financial difficulty and distress and have risen above it and done what they have to do. I'm going to try and get her as a guest on our show. I'm just extremely impressed by her story.
And she used to vote Republican.
And she used to vote Republican, so she recognizes fiscal responsibility, but at the same time, she balances these issues. And I think it's, and there's a great quote that she had where she's been charged with, she's been attacked as being so pro-tax reduction that the Republicans don't give her any credit. Now, I'll just share this with you to end the segment. There is nobody in this country who got rich on his own. Nobody. You moved your goods to market on the roads the rest of us paid for. You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for. You didn't have to worry that marauding bands would come and seize everything at your factory and hire someone to protect against us because of the work the rest of us did. Now look, you built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless. Keep a big hunk of it, but part of the underlying social contract is you take a hunk of that and pay forward for the next kid who comes along. I think she's just a really unique individual, and I think we're going to see a lot more of her, and I'm kind of excited by how the fire that she brings to the fold. With that, we're going to kind of conclude this segment of Law and Reality. We will be back with the next segment of Law and Reality.